What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Real Fans FC. Back with Adam again. We had a little bit of a hiatus because of the holidays and everything going on, but we're obviously back in the heat of the winter transfer window. Things just kicking off, getting started, all kind of craziness going on. But we're going to probably talk more about that next week because right now it just feels like, other than small stuff, a lot of the bigger things is just kind of like in the works currently. But we're going to start off with Adam. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
New scenery.
We had a new scenery, new PC. I call it the Beast. I enjoyed building that sucker over the holiday season, but comes with some upgrades with the scenery.
It comes with green screen effects.
Yeah, built in.
Cool.
Who needs to buy a studio? Just get a new computer.
Came with your webcam. So, all right, we'll kick it off first. We'll talk about Concacaf Champions Cup. Obviously, the draw happened, like a month ago now. But with everything going on with the MLS playoffs and the holidays and everything, we didn't get a really chance. We haven't had really a chance to talk about it. So we're going to hit it up with our predictions today. We're going to only go over round one. So Adam, how you feeling about Miami's chances?
I think. Well, I mean, if you're asking if we went into the tournament now, we would get fucking rocked. But after the transfer window, it might be different. There's still shit going on, even as of today. So, we'll see. We'll see. They got some upgrading to do defensively. They need to shore that up.
But
then we'll talk. Yeah. But I'm glad they're in the second round because it's going to be difficult. Even some of these teams are still doing their transfer stuff, but we'll manage.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit more Miami after this, but all right, so let's start from the top on the left side. I would say it's arguably probably the easier side, the Mexican heavy side. So we got Philadelphia Union versus Saprissa. Saprissa, the reigning champions in Costa Rica, they just won the Apertura, I believe, and yeah, honestly, this is a sneaky matchup. Obviously, I think the Costa Rican league is the third best league in the region. And look, Saprissa, they've won this tournament before within this century. So they're sneaky team. I don't think they have what it takes right now to necessarily beat Philadelphia, but I do think they're going to give Philadelphia a run for their money. And I think going to Costa Rica is going to be a tough matchup for Philly. But
it's a long trip.
I do. Yeah. From Philly. Yeah. Probably like 6 hours, maybe somewhere around there. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, from here, it's like 2.5, but that is I didn't even think about that. That's a long flight. That could potentially be a pretty long flight.
And it took me I don't think I went direct though, but I think it was like 3 hours, something like that.
Yeah, so I would say Philly advances, but I do think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be honestly a really good matchup. It's probably going to be the only good matchup outside of any MLS versus Liga MX matchups when you talk about another league. But what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know much.
I know you don't know much about
that's the Costa Rican league aside from what you have shared. But I mean, I have no reason to disagree. I mean, I would think Philadelphia is the better team. Giving
how about this? I'll shake this up to you. Do you think? I was going to say, do you think Philly? So there's a lot of question marks coming into this season, like how the team's going to look. Are they going to lose a lot of players and everything? Like, do you see them improving or kind of staying stagnant this year?
It's a good question. I would probably lean towards stagnant. I don't really think they're gonna get much worse, and I think that can make it tough. This is probably one of those toss-ups, and I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna say fuck it, and I'm gonna go against Philly here. I think that's gonna be a tough trip.
Upset.
and you've been talking big on that league, so I feel like I gotta pick their champs.
Yeah, I will say the league has slowly fallen off. I don't really follow it, to be honest with you, but I do know that, like I said, they're playing pretty well. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, and really more so on the fact that I don't know how to think of Philly coming into the season. I just feel like they've peaked, and I don't know if it's just going to recall like drastic measures to kind of change things and switch things around, especially if they end up losing Carranza, which I haven't heard anything about him leaving, but I would imagine he's probably, I don't know if he's going to leave this winter, maybe this summer, but obviously that's going to be before the Champions Cup ends or after the Champions Cup ends. So, all right, cool. So I got Philadelphia. You have the surprise upset, Costa Rica. All right, let's go to Toluca and Heredan, Herediano. And basically, Toluca is 12th in Liga MX right now. They just finished the Apertura and had a very poor season this first half, this fall. Not very good. Herediano had finished third in the league. Look, I'm not going to say I know much about both teams, but if I'm going to have to pick, I'm going to pick probably the tougher league, even though Toluca is having a really shitty Apertura season. At the end of the day, I'm going to rate the league a little bit higher and have Toluca advancing.
Yeah, I would agree. This is probably one of the. I would say this is the matchup I know the least about. Definitely.
I'm just swinging it out here.
So yeah, I know, right? Some of these fucking leagues, it's like shit. Why am I even doing this podcast? Can we just end the episode? I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, guys, see you next week. I don't know what I'm talking about. But no, I would go with the stronger league as well in a situation where I don't know.
All right. Then we got America versus Esteli. I don't know much about this team. I'm going to go America here. I'm not even going to pretend to analyze this. Let's be real. It's America. Like they're going to advance. Let's go. I'm
Yeah, I
assuming you got the
agree.
same thing.
I mean, come on now. They're
Yeah.
they're one of the strongest teams in the entire continent. So why would you pick against them with a team that I don't know? Where are they from? Nicaragua? I think that's all I know about them.
Yeah, they were actually funny enough. They had an incredible upset over Saprissa in the Central American Cup to qualify for the tournament because I don't know if you know, for the Central American teams to qualify for this tournament, they have a Central American Cup, and the top four from that cup get into the actual tournament. And they were kind of a surprise team to make it to the final. They upset Saprissa. It was like everybody who wasn't Saprissa fans were laughing about the entire time about how they lost to a team from Nicaragua. but yeah, so now we got Chivas, Guadalajara versus the first time we're seeing a Canadian Premier League team enter the Champions Cup, the Forge. Look, I've seen
Based
a
out
little bit
of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
So just outside of Toronto. I have a friend that lives in Hamilton, funny enough. So look, I've seen a little bit of the Canadian Premier League. I would say it might be a little less on par or maybe close to on par of the USL. So you're basically asking me to pick a team that's definitely a USL level, maybe a little worse, to Chivas. Like,
And it's
I'm going with Chivas here. Like, Chivas is advanced. Even with Chivas B team, I think they should easily qualify.
Yeah, totally
Now we
agree.
got now we got
Now
New
we got
England
New
Revolution
England.
versus, I believe this is a Haitian team, CAI. Even with all the things going on with New England,
It's
I
apparently
believe I'm not even
Panamanian.
sure. Oh, Panamanian. My bad. Apologize to the Panamanian fans out there. Yeah, I'm going New England here. I have no reason to pick against them. Look, New England's having kind of a upside down kind of crazy thing. Honestly, do they deserve to be in this tournament in the first place? Not really. The only reason why they did was because Columbus won the cup and also qualified through through their standing in the Supporter Shield race. So that's the only reason why New England's in here. But at the end of the day, they're just going to be, even like a B team's going to advance. All right, so let's swap over to the other side. This is going to be the MLS heavy side and some of the Liga MX giants. So now we got Houston versus St. Louis. So St. Louis had just recently made a signing or in talks of a signing of a midfielder that should help solidify. I believe I can't remember his name on the top of my head, but I'm not even sure if the deal went through yet. Houston so far, no action, no major action at least right now. But Houston ended the season really strong. Basically, like I said, winning the U.S. Open Cup, going on to make the Western Conference Finals, ended up eventually losing to LAFC on the road. St. Louis getting knocked out early in the playoffs is Kansas City. Look, St. Louis had an incredible run, but I just have the vibe this year that they're going to have an Austin type year and just completely drop.
Yeah.
Probably not as bad as Austin. I just don't see St. Louis being a top team again this year in this league. I think they're going to probably be about a mid-table team. I think they're going to kind of balance out. I think they came into the league just so like ready and the fans and the emotion and a system that hasn't quite been seen yet in the MLS. And I think it kind of took a lot of people off guard. And I think now they're going to be kind of figured out because honestly, from top to bottom, it's not the most talented team in the world. But I have Houston winning this actually. I think they're a team that's progressively getting better and they're going to make moves.
Yeah, and this is something that we definitely talked about when we were making the playoff picks for the MLS Cup. We both were in agreement that St. Louis, congrats, they did incredible. I mean, come on now, for first year debut club to make it to win their conference and make it to the Concacaf Champions Cup is an incredible achievement. And they're gonna have, they have some amazing support. That's not up for debate. But we knew that, reality was gonna hit. The thing that we weren't sure about was when. Um, I thought it would come a little. We both did. That was the one that um we definitely both got wrong. That we thought St.
Oh
Louis
yeah,
was
that
going to
upset.
get through the
Yeah.
first round. Yeah, we thought St. Louis was going to get through the first round, and then reality was going to hit. We didn't expect it to come so early, with Houston being on such a hot streak, and St. Louis. I think they're a game off of getting bounced, and we'll see how they start the season. But you'd have to pick Houston here if you've been following what's going on.
Yeah. So basically, I got the big signing that they actually had. This is honestly, it's a really good signing. So they signed Danish left back Nicholas Trier for undisclosed transfer fee from the Danish Super League. From how do you? I don't know if you know how to pronounce. You probably don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like that most popular team in
Spell it.
Midtjylland.
Midgetland.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, Midgetland. I don't know, but I know
I
the
know it's
team
a funny
obviously.
name, but I'm pretty sure that's how we've always. That's
Yeah,
how we've
so
always.
a
At
left
least me and
back
my friends.
coming.
That's always said it. If any Danish people are watching, please feel free to let us know how to pronounce it if I'm wrong. But
Yeah, if you're Danish watching this show, that is wild. So shout out to you. But this guy, 22 years old, he's played for Denmark in some experience. He's also played in Europa League and Champions League competition. So not a big name signing, but these are the type of signings I think you need in the MLS, guys who have really like strong experience in Europe, playing in top competitions, who are young and I think this is the type of thing the league needs to go for. So I also am not surprised. This is kind of St. Louis's DNA to kind of so far that we've seen that going after a lot of younger Europeans. So
yeah, and they don't necessarily care about the name recognition. They will look to these big leagues and say, okay, so what if this guy isn't going to necessarily sell jerseys? He's from an established team in an established league and has experience. It's the same thing with Roman Berkey. I mean, only real actual fans know who Roman Berkey is. Like, you're not gonna walk to somebody on the street who just watched the World Cup and just be like, "Hey, do you know who Roman Berkey is?" They're gonna be like, who the fuck is that?
Or you're just a
You know?
Dortmund fan, or
Yeah, or a
what's it
Dortmund fan or a
called? A big,
Bundesliga fan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bayern fan or whatever.
Um,
I
and
mean, look at Klaus. I mean, they
I
can
was
make a
never
name for
even
themselves
huge.
too.
I was never even huge in the Bundesliga. I just, I've just been following the sport long enough that I know. So it's not like, but that's their big signing. That was their big signing, and it ended up being, just very
Goalkeeper of the
smart.
year.
Yeah, goalkeeper
Goalkeeper
of
of
the
the
year,
year.
all star. Good DP signing. We don't see teams do that because they, like we've said a million times, that teams like to be top heavy with the limited amount of money that they get to spend. But
Look at the Joao
it
Klaus.
is what
I
it
mean,
is.
that's a guy who came out of nowhere in the Brazilian league, came over here. Now he's kind of like, for people who followed the ML,
Yeah,
even though he was injured a lot,
the
but when
Brazilian
he,
with
yeah,
Klaus. I
even when
love to
he,
make fun of him with it.
even when he, even though he didn't play a lot, when he was playing, he made a name for himself. Like I knew his name, like he was scoring out of this, where he's playing really well. So, yeah, let's move on to the next game. We got Tigres versus Vancouver. This is a pretty good matchup. I will say Vancouver, obviously, they didn't get in through MLS play. They got in through winning the Canadian Championship Cup. Which, I mean, look, the Canadian teams that get in here, they usually like the Montreal, Toronto. Well, I'll say Toronto's honestly a really good squad that gets in
Yeah,
without or
they just had
throughout
a
the
rough,
history.
couple years.
No,
Yeah,
well, since their history,
yeah,
they
yeah,
get in. They're usually good team. A lot of these Canadian teams that get in through the cup usually end up never really being super strong. Vancouver's in it again because of that. Um, Look, Tigres, from what all I understand from the people who follow them and follow Liga MX, it's a team that spends a lot of money. They got a lot of talent on that team. They're doing versus Vancouver. Like I don't see Vancouver getting out of this. Tigres is going to advance, in my opinion. Vancouver has just been kind of in that purgatory of just kind of being mid-table, squeezing into playoffs, but never really being super competitive.
yeah. I totally agree. They're not a terrible team. But you look at some of these times, you look at the Canadian Cup final, and it's Vancouver versus Forge. You know what I mean? Like it is one of those. So you're like, shit, it's not even fucking Toronto versus Vancouver. Because sometimes it ends up like that.
Yeah, sometimes.
So
I think
it's
most of the
not.
time, I think the MLS teams come in like the semifinals or like the quarter. I think the MLS teams come in the quarterfinals, and most of the time they end up facing each other. And look at this year: Toronto sucked, Montreal sucked, Vancouver was probably the best out of the three. So it's like Vancouver, yeah, I guess they're the best team in Canada, but that's not saying much. So it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
all
All
right,
right, let's next matchup.
Orlando
Fucking
versus
Christ, man.
the Calvary. So Orlando Calvary is from Canada. So this is another Canadian team. I don't recall seeing the Calvary in Canada. I guess so. Anyway, another Canadian team
Calvary from
versus
Calgary.
Orlando. Calgary. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
The
Calvary from
Calgary
Calgary.
Cavalry.
Gosh, say that 10 times fast. Yeah, I'm gonna go
I mean,
Orlando
shit, the
here.
fucking Forge is the Hammers because they're in Hamilton. The Hamilton, they should just call themselves the Hamilton Hammers. I don't know the
This
missed
sounds
opportunity
like
there, but
Canadian, this sounds like Canadian football, like American football. This sounds like Canadian football league. So those
yeah,
weird names. Yeah,
shit.
I'm going Orlando here. Orlando's
Yeah,
honestly, look, as a Miami fan, Orlando's a good team. They really started to click towards the end of the season. They're playing well. They have a lot of talent. They could be honestly a sneaky favorite in this tournament that can surprise some people. I think they're really good. Look, they pushed Tigres to the end last year, and the only reason why they didn't advance was because of the away goal thing, which I don't think is a thing anymore. I think they got rid of it with this new rendition of the Champions Cup. I would have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it isn't. I'm pretty sure they got rid of the away goal advantage, which I've always thought was kind of stupid anyways. I'm glad that it's no longer a thing. But yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't ask me how I feel about it as an Arsenal fan, so I'd be biased. So
Yeah.
amount of times in the
It, it,
Champions
it
League.
It's dumb. I'm glad that I hope
Yeah.
I'm almost positive it's no longer in it, but I'm pretty sure it. I'm not entirely sure. All right, now let's go to Monterrey versus Comunicaciones, which is based out of Guatemala. Look, Monterrey, one of the best teams in the
One
nation,
of the
in
best
the
teams, yeah,
continent.
exactly. In the continent.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. Some people say the best team in the continent. They're very good. Finished second in the Apertura, only behind America. Look, they played really well, made it to the semifinals of the Leagues Cup, and then lost in penalty kicks to Nashville. So this is a team that's going to compete. They're going to be right there in the semifinals. They're going to dog walk
Yeah,
Comunicaciones.
this is going to be easy. Comunicaciones, even though they're in first in the Guatemalan league in their division right now, their record's not that great. I mean,
It's the
7 wins,
Guatemalan
5
league.
draws, 7 wins, 5 draws, 4 losses in the Guatemalan league. You'd have to think they're going to get pretty much trounced in this one.
Adam, you could probably play there, man.
Yeah, shit, yeah. I've said for my only issue has always been my stamina. I never had the discipline to get myself up there. I could run for 90 minutes, but I really couldn't give it all for 90 minutes. And if I could, you never know. I could probably fooled a few people.
All right, so here's the next game. This is the one I got mixed up with the Cavalry. This is Cincinnati versus the Cavalier, based out of Jamaica. We have Cincinnati, who's just beefed up their defense, adding Miles Robinson. And if they're able to keep Barry out and everybody else on that team, which it seems like they're going to, outside of Brandon Vasquez, who actually just went to Monterrey to help beef up that team. That's a really big signing from Monterrey. Could potentially, let's be real, they're probably going to end up meeting each other. So that's going to be a really cool comeback for Brandon Vasquez to go back to Cincinnati in the Champions Cup. So yeah, Cincinnati is the easy advance. Obviously, MLS Cup contender coming into this season. The Jamaican team, Cavaliers, just not going to have a chance.
And arguably, they're the second best team in the MLS. We both thought that Columbus versus Cincinnati game was the decider. So they're a good team, and you're right. With bringing back all those people, they can't be counted out. And Cavalier, in the Jamaican Premier League, are is it going on right now? I'm sure. Why wouldn't it be? It doesn't snow there. 7 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. So they're in 4th position. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're in 4th position in the Jamaican Premier League. So even more reason why I think they would have a tough time of it.
Yeah, if they were like undefeated, like absolutely ran through the Caribbean Cup, like then I'd be like, oh shit, maybe. But no. All right, last and final game, we have Nashville versus Mocha FC out of the Dominican Republic.
I like that name. That's kind of cool. So yeah, I play for Mocha FC.
Mocha FC. Yeah, I can see it.
Like what's their derby? Mocha FC versus Coffee FC?
Cafe. I don't know.
Mocha FC versus Cafe FC. Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, Nashville advances here. Nashville made to the finals of the Leagues Cup. I would say underperformed in the playoffs. This is going to be a team who, look, they haven't lost anybody. I think they're going to continue to kind of be where they're at. I do think they still need a couple pieces on the midfield, but as long as you have Hani Mukhtar and now Sam Surridge and a stout defense, look, they're going to be doing things. So I think Nashville's going to advance and face Miami, which is going to end up being a pretty close match, closer than you might think. But yeah, those are predictions for the CCC, the new rendition of the Concacaf Champions League, now the Concacaf Champions Cup. And yeah, speaking of Miami, I feel like we have to talk about it. I don't have it on the topic sheet, but we got to talk about it. Luis Suarez officially signs with Inter Miami. Adam, when you first saw the news, how did you feel? Well, how did you feel about the rumors? And then now that it's actually happening, has your thoughts changed from when you first thought when all the rumors are coming out to what it is now that it's reality?
So I was always kind of 50-50 on this. Because of the news that came out about, how he basically said he was getting fucking injections to play, and that he was worried about his health. And then that's the man who's getting linked to Miami, and it's like, but you got to think about this. They understand he's not going to be a starting every game type of player. They have Campana. They're going to use Campana. Suarez is going to be used, obviously, but he's not going to be overused. I think they're getting him for that purpose. They know he's old, but you look at the stats that he's been putting up in Brazil. I, he could still cut it. He could still finish. I mean, he still got
Speaking
it.
of stats, I have
If
it
his
right
legs
here.
are healthy, then why not?
17 goals, 11 assists, played and started in 33 matches, and has 2,889 minutes played. And according to FOTMob, his rating is a 7.6, which from everybody that I know who
He's been
follows the
great.
Brazilian league, he played pretty well. He played really good, honestly. Not pretty.
And
He
it's a
played
tough
really
and it's a
good.
tough league. It's
It's a
it's
better
considered
league.
a tough league.
Realist.
Well, yeah, definitely better than MLS if we're going to talk about comparing it there. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Like I said, we'll definitely talk more as the team gets finalized. I don't know if we want to talk too much um, about Inter Miami, um, right now because things are changing even today. Though there's rumors and stuff.
Yeah.
So it'll be exciting. I hopefully they can sign defenders because that's what we need. Um, we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
I will say this with the Suarez thing. At first, when I was even the stuff last year, so it was rumbling some even before Messi even signed. I wasn't a big fan of it because this was at the time before he went to Brazil. Then he went to he was Atleti, didn't play a whole lot, and then he went to Uruguay to Nacional, and he played for half a season there. And it kind of I don't know, it just kind of concerned me a lot. And then he had a lot. He still does have a lot of wear and tear. But I think if he was to come straight out of Uruguay and then he came in last year, I would have a lot more worrisome. But after seeing what he did in Brazil, like I said, which is a tougher league, I actually think Brazil's the sixth best league. I personally think it is. I know it's debatable. I've been watching a lot of the Dutch league. I don't know if the Dutch league is really that great. But that's a topic for another. That's a discussion for another day. Regardless, he played really well. Like I said, 17 goals, 11 assists. Look, I would sign up for that any day of the week. And like you said, it's a long season. Look, we're gonna have the most games Inter Miami's gonna ever play in a year. We have U.S. Open Cup, Champions Cup, the regular season, Leagues Cup, and most likely we're gonna make the playoffs. So we have a lot of things going on that you're gonna need a rotation, and that's why you're keeping Campana here. I don't know if they play together. Honestly, I think with the way the scheduling is, they probably won't unless they absolutely have to. I think
Yeah.
with the amount of games Suarez can do, you're going to want. I imagine a world where Suarez probably plays 25 games across all competitions, maybe 30 games across all competitions. Because I think in total, if we were to make it to the final in every single cup and play every single one, I think it's about 55 games. So I think he plays about half or maybe a little bit more than half. Look, I will say a lot of people are saying, like, look, yeah, he's getting the injections, but he still played 33 games, probably more than that, honestly, when you consider all the other stuff, all the other competitions going on. And in that heat in Brazil. But I get that he did that, but it still is another year. I mean, we've seen players all the time like look fine and then the next season completely just look gassed. So that does worry me some. Like for all the people like, oh, don't worry, listen how much he did. He did this much and this much and this much. And last year, I'm like, yeah, but that's another year wear and tear. That's another year wear and tear.
Yeah.
So that does concern me, but I do think with the rotation, I think the coaching staff with Tata Martino, they're going to do a good job of making sure. Look, he's playing every Champions Cup game. without a doubt. He's playing I think he's going to play cup games and pretty much outside of the US Open Cup in the beginning part, he's pretty much going to play cup games and regular season games when there's not a tournament going on. So like the middle of summer towards the MLS playoffs after Leagues Cup. So, but I think we're probably going to prioritize him for Champions Cup and Leagues Cup for sure. But I think, look, having Campana is great. You're going to need him. Honestly, you're going to need him to step up. I think the B team in our attack is pretty solid. So it's going to be a pretty tight, first couple months trying to manage everything with the US Open Cup, the regular season, and the Champions Cup. But yeah, I think he's going to do well. I warmed up to it. At first, I was super skeptical, but then after looking into it, I still am. I'm still in a wait and see. But at the end of the day, he's only making what, $200,000. Something he's like on a TAM deal, not $200,000. He's making like 2 million or a million, 1.2 million on a TAM deal. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's only for one season. Get to have Suarez. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. You still have Campana there. And at the end of the day, it's still Suarez. It's still Suarez. If Suarez can bring in 15 goals, that's a huge success. I think that's more than what Campana and Joseph had in their season. So I think that's going to be really good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Let's move on to another attacker. And this was the news that came out recently. Denny Bouanga wants out of LAFC. I don't know about you, but when I first saw this news, I was shocked. I was like, whoa, like, where did this come from? This is wild. This is a guy who was the MLS Golden Boot winner. He had, I believe, 30 plus, 36, 38 goals in all competitions. Like, this guy lit it up. One of the best years for a scorer in the MLS, especially across all competitions. And then out of nowhere, he wants out. So I ask you, like, what is kind of your reaction to the news? And then we'll break it down.
Well, it's tough to say what's going on behind the scenes, but my reaction is that LAFC should just pay him or give him what he wants or do whatever they can. If it's a question of, hey, I want this X amount or this to happen for me to stay, they need to make it happen. I mean, yes, there's been talk that people are like, oh, they should just, spend money on a striker. But I mean, I'm sorry, but 36 games, 25 goals, 6 assists, 8 matches in the Concacaf Champions League, 7 goals and 3 assists. That's the guy who has, I mean, you can't just let a guy like that walk unless he is saying, I don't want to play for this team and there's nothing you can do. So it's really an interesting one. And it's hard to say. Like, I can't even imagine it. The easiest guess is money.
Yeah, supposedly he says that he wants to go back to Europe and test skills, but look, dude, like, first off, LAFC found a gem in you. They pulled him out of League Two in the second division of France, and he just so happened to lit it up. It was a risky bet even getting him, honestly. I mean, he was regarded well, like really a good player in League Two back then, but like even then, like, it's League Two. Like, we've got like Courton Jean who came from League One, and he was not that very good. So like, it's still a risky bet picking him up from that league. And at the end of the day, he's 29 years old. I don't know very many teams in Europe that most likely, if you're going to get a shot, it's going to be a lower level first division team. I think he's not going to go back to a second division team. I think he proved himself pretty well this season. He's going to go back to probably the bottom of Ligue 1. And he's not going to get nowhere near the money he would get here in MLS as a DP. No one's going to pay him that. He might do pretty well, but one day they got to pay his transfer fee, which is going to be, I just looked on Transfer Market, it's $10 million. So unless he's going to Saudi Arabia where they don't give a shit and they're going to give him a high salary, that's his only option. I don't see any European team spending the money that he wants that he would get in LAFC. And on top of that, to me, this is clearly a money play because where did this come from? Like, this came like out of nowhere. And like I said, you're older. He's 29. Like, what are you going to do over there? Like, realistically, like, he's peaked. Why not stay in the league where you're going to perform well, and be one of the best players in the league. Because honestly, outside of Messi, I would say Denny Bouanga is the best attacker in the league. Probably the best player in the league outside of Messi. He was incredible this season. His physicality, his speed, his finishing. He was by far one of the best players.
And you can argue one of his worst games this season was against Inter Miami, and that was not really because of anything technical that he did wrong. It's just he kind of got in his own head and wanted to score himself rather than, pass the ball and get those easy assists.
I will say what's weird is so he clearly wants more money, but it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on it because it's like, look, if you're LAFC, you don't want to let another player go like you do with Chicho Arango. That guy single-handedly and Gareth Bale helped you win that Champions MLS Cup. And then luckily you're able to basically replace that production with Denny Bouanga. Do you really want to play that game again and get rid of another player that's giving you a ton of production?
That's the thing. It's like, why do this? Why go through this shit?
You got lucky
again
that he ended up working out. Do you want to go through that again? And look, there's a lot of talks that Benzema might go there and all this thing. I think LAFC is going to be pretty drastically different. But if you're LAFC, one, you don't know if you're going to get anybody big in Europe. Even if you do get quote unquote Benzema, who's to say he's going to play any well? They got the goalkeeper. I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. That was one hell of a signing, I will say. That was a crazy sign. I can't believe they got him for so cheap, the French goalkeeper.
Hugo national team. Well, because he's fucking garbage. That's why he got...
Well, regardless, I'm surprised they got him.
Since his shocker.
Well, I will say I'm surprised they got him on the amount, like $300,000. Like, that's wild that he's taking that money. I guess might as well go live in LA or whatever. But look, Carlos Vela is not the same Vela. Like you said, they essentially don't really have a striker. They've been like not really having great strikers. They've been relying a lot on this guy to create production. You don't want to get rid of him. So pay him whatever it is, figure it out. But then on the other side, I'm like, man, this guy signed a contract to this deal. Like, this is what you picked. This is what you chose. You got to live with it. Like, so I'm kind of back and forth on it. But it's like, dude, you want to go? So, like, first off, no one's going to get takey for that money. No one is. So I don't know. It's tough. I'm curious to see how this saga ends. I don't necessarily have a stance on it, but I do feel I get where Bouanga is coming from because, like, look, you're 29. You're not going to get paid a whole lot more. So you're coming off an incredible season. Try to get as much money as you possibly can. And then if you're LAFC, if it's not a big deal, just do it. So I don't know. We'll see. What I am surprised is how vocal it is. Something we haven't seen in MLS in a while. Somebody like being super vocal about wanting to get. He hasn't said straight out that he wants to get paid more, but let's be real. It's what it is. Like, this dude's not going to go. Like I said, no one's going to go to. If he goes to a European team, which I think he can play in Europe, no one's going to pay him the money he would make here. And at his age, you got to get one last big contract before you're no longer relevant. So we shall see. So let's swap over to the top 5 leagues. I'll say probably the biggest. I don't want to say the biggest story. I don't know what the biggest story of the year is, honestly, but it's definitely one of the biggest stories. One of the biggest underdog Cinderella teams is Girona in La Liga, is tied for second place with Real Madrid tied for first place. My bad.
Guess.
With Real Madrid
on points, but if it ended today, Madrid first on goal difference. But yeah, that's wild.
On goal differential. Incredible game Girona had against Atleti. This is a team with only one loss. Their only loss coming to Real Madrid, and honestly, a close matchup. They have 46 goals on the season, which is the most goals in the entire league. And they beat one of the top teams in La Liga and one of the top teams in the Champions League in Atleti in an incredible matchup at home.
And they beat Barca.
Oh, and they beat Barcelona. They beat everybody. They played the whole team. They played the whole table, and the only team they've lost to is Real Madrid, which is reasonable. So absolutely insane. Did you see the game? What were your thoughts? It was an incredible game.
I saw the highlights. It was a very, very enjoyable watch. I mean, even watching the highlights back, I mean, that was entertaining stuff. They definitely I think they deserve to win that game. You could argue they got a bit lucky. But that's such is life. Can they win La Liga? Absolutely. Will they? It's going to be a tough ask because when you're with teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona, even though Barcelona have been struggling, um, the question is always going to be, can you sustain it into, well into the dog days of the league where it really matters, and where you don't just have to beat the good teams, you got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. Will they be able to continue to do that? Because they're unproven, you're going to have a lot of
Oh,
people
beat
saying
teams
no.
you're not supposed to beat too. On top of that,
Well, yeah, on top of that, but that's the thing, you can look at a lot of teams. Sometimes they play against a big team, they'll win, but then you play against a bad team that just parks the bus, can't do anything. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I don't know if I want to make the prediction now, but yes, the answer is yes, they can absolutely win La Liga this year, and it would be
so
great.
40
I kind of want them to.
so 48 points, tied with Real Madrid. Third place is Barcelona with 41 points. So they have a 7-point lead on Barca. I would say it almost seems like, look, I know it's a little early. We have a whole second half of the season to go. We're entering the next year. But I feel very, very good about them making the Champions League. And from what I understand, I was actually watching a YouTube short that there could be trouble with Manchester City. And because I don't know if you know this, but Girona is a part of the City group. And there's something
Yes.
about the UEFA rules that will prevent two teams playing against each other in the Champions League. So there could be like a big dilemma. I don't know exactly. We'll see how things play out. But apparently, there's a lot of things going on about in the background trying to figure out how they can make this work if both teams make the Champions League. But back to the actual team. Yeah, incredible game. Atleti, look, they like you said, made little mistakes, but that final goal at the end to get to the event was an incredible goal. I mean, took on
Yeah,
like
it
four
was.
different
It's great.
defenders, hit top bends. Like it was an awesome goal, amazing play. And shout out to Atleti. Morata is a beast. Dude is playing out of his mind for Atleti. He had a hat trick that game and still lost. That guy's been a scoring machine. Griezmann's been playing really well. I like the Atleti team, but they're losing games they shouldn't lose to, and they're drawing as well. So I don't know. I think their chances of actually going after the title this year is pretty much gone. They're going to be pretty much battling with Athletic Bilbao to actually make the Champions League. So, but yeah, can Girona make it against Real Madrid? Like you said, it's going to be tough. Like, look, I was skeptical at first, the first couple weeks, but it's continuing to happen. And this is a team, they're not just like parking the bus either. If you watch them play and you look at their statistics and everything, this is a team that's playing aggressive. Like they're not scared to play. Like
Yeah, they're
they're
going
out there,
for
they're
it.
playing. They do let a lot, they let in a lot of goals. They let in a lot of goals. And that's one of the things that's stopping them from, like, right now, they have 24 goals allowed, which is one of the most in the league. Not super high, but if you look at Real Madrid's only allowed 11 goals, Barcelona's allowed 22, 19 for Atleti Bilbao, Madrid's about 23, about the same. So if they can find a way to slow down the amount of goals coming in their way, they could have a realistic chance. Because if not, they're going to have to solely rely on the fact that they can beat Madrid, which is Madrid looks like they're probably going to win the title. So it's going to be a tight race. It's going to be a really fun race. Like you said, they've, Barcelona doesn't look super strong. Atleti Bilbao, they look good for what they are, but they've proven that they can beat them. They beat Atletico Madrid. Like Sociedad seems to be putting a lot of marbles into the Champions League basket. So they could, it's gonna be really interesting, and I'm really excited. It has me actually watching the Girona to see if they actually advance. Let me pull up their upcoming schedule and see who they have next. So they have Almeria,
Yeah,
Rayo
be
Vallecano,
interesting to
Lescano,
see.
Sevilla, Celta Vigo, Sociedad. All right, so yeah, they pretty much. I see them winning all these against Sevilla, Celta Vigo, Real
Yeah, so if
Sociedad,
they
but then they
keep it
got
up, then
They play
that's a
Real
good sign.
Madrid.
They should be winning these.
At February 11th. That's going to be a huge game.
Yeah,
that's going to be a huge game.
So hopefully
February
they can
11th,
keep it close until then.
At the Bernabeu.
Yeah. So we'll definitely be talking about that. Hopefully when it comes around.
Making the Champions League is an achievement in and of itself. This is a team that literally got promoted last year. They were playing second division 2 years ago, got promoted in last year, and now they're freaking top of the table. Incredible. So we'll see how that saga continues. All right. Now let's give our Champions League knockout. This is another Champions League we're a little late on. I know, but with things going on, we're still like a month away from the games.
Well,
anyways.
Hey, listen,
so
they don't even start for a month. We're not late. Fuck off.
Yeah. All right,
we can definitely go through, just give our initial thoughts, kind of similar to what we did in for the Concacaf Champions Cup, and then we'll close it out and do a little trivia.
All right, so we got FC Copenhagen against Man City.
You can just say Man City
Copenhagen. I don't know. I'm trying to be respectful, man. Against Manchester City, who continues to basically pay UEFA under the table to get them the easiest draw imaginable. They got the easiest group, and now they're getting the easiest team. Yeah, very fishy, huh? Next, they're going to get like PSV or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, right? We don't even need to talk about this one. I mean, we kind of know that City are going to win.
City advances. Let's be real. They're going to dominate. All right, let's go down to Red Bull Leipzig versus Real Madrid. This is another game. Pretty favorable draw for Real Madrid. Real Madrid is going to advance on this very easy. I'm sure you agree as well.
I agree, but as long as they don't sleep too hard on Leipzig, they definitely have the talent to give you a tough run at it.
All right, next one. This is the first of our interesting matchups. We have PSG versus Real Sociedad on Valentine's Day. We might disagree on this. So I watched PSG a lot in Group F. I watched a lot of Group F. They didn't look very strong. And I can't necessarily take into consideration league play because the French league is a lesser league. So it's hard to really judge. I can only judge based off what they do in the group. They didn't look super strong. Their only great showing was against Dortmund. So I don't really know how well they're going to do against another team. They kind of squeezed by against Milan. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they perform. But I have Real Sociedad advancing here. I think Real Sociedad, they're putting all their eggs into the Champions League basket. They're still playing really well in league play. They're in Europa League qualifications in 5th place. This is a team that's built very well. They're very well in the attack, very well defensively. And they went undefeated in their group play with them in Inter Milan. So I like Real Sociedad. I've said from the jump that they're going to be my dark horse team. I have them advancing over PSG. PSG getting knocked out. They're down to 16.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I definitely I would like you to be right. I just think that PSG will probably wake up. Mbappe is still Mbappe. So I want you.
And I don't want to say. I'm not going to say Sociedad's going to dog walk them.
Yeah, no, of course. But I agree. PSG, if this is the year to beat them, it's this year. They've been very much struggling, especially in the group. It was a tough group, but I mean, seriously, there were some matches there where it was
the amount of money that's on that team with Marquinhos and Hakimi and Mbappe, Dembele, like that team should be a lot better than what Donnarumma. That team should be a lot better than what they are. They just can't get it together. And Luis Enrique, I don't think is necessarily a great coach. To be honest with you, I'm not super high on him as a coach. He didn't look very good with Spain. He hasn't looked good for a long time as a coach. So I think there's just going to be a lot more heart in Sociedad. They just played very well together. But look, I'm not going to be surprised if PSG wins. I wouldn't be surprised if they're even the favorites. But I have a dark horse. There's always that one team anyways. So
yeah. Hey, we'll see.
But you got PSG.
Yes. And next,
Okay.
I'm sure this is going to be an easier one for both of us. I mean, Bayern versus Lazio. Bayern, I mean, you could say what you want about Lazio, but Bayern are clicking on all cylinders. Harry Kane is so good for them. I mean, who would have thought they would do better than Lewandowski? And they really are. Like, he is clicking that well for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, all those that
I
whole
mean,
team is just
I
Harry
think
Kane,
Bayern have
Musiala.
to be considered the favorites to win the whole thing, at least right now. I mean, maybe you
Yeah,
can make that argument for City, but
Lazio's really weak right now. They're towards the bottom of Serie A. Not very good. They had a
they've been
really good
struggling.
season last year. They got into the Champions League, which is an achievement for them. They did very well last season, but this year it's kind of like, I know they have a little bit of a, from what I understand, there's a little bit of a dispute between the coach and the management of like what players they want, who should play, and all this other nonsense. Big fan of Valentin Castellano. Tati Castellano plays at Lazio.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, he's been playing all right. He's been kind of going back and forth. That's kind of one of the big player. I know there's a few player disagreements that I've heard that they're having, and he's one of them. That management wants him to play, but the coach doesn't really want him. I don't know. It's just this weird thing, and it's probably part of this dysfunction. Is probably part of the reason why they're not playing super well right now. So yeah, I'm with you. But and then Bayern's it's Bayern. Like they're fucking. They know
even
they work
without
so well.
it, Bayern's Bayern, but yeah, they're a machine right now.
All right, now
next.
these
matchup.
are really good matchups. Inter versus Atleti. This is a tough one. This is a super tough one. So Inter, top of Serie A right now, firing on all cylinders. Didn't lose a game in Serie A. I mean, not bad. Only lost one game in Serie A. Didn't lose a game in Champions League. Only one loss pretty much all season. Playing out of this world. Lautaro Martinez is absolutely balling right now. 16 goals on the season. And then Tehran absolutely going in. Like the top two attack have just been, that formation just working so well for them. They know how to, they're a fast team that knows how to break those lines and really get ahead, and is super good in transition. They've just been playing so well. They're very well coached. They're probably going to end up winning Serie A because they already got a pretty strong lead. Atleti, they're a talented team. I like Atleti, but in moments they can kind of drop the ball, specifically defensively, which is, I mean, everybody knows with the Simeone team and the history of Atletico Madrid, it's a team that's always very defensively stout, but they're not really that so much. They're very good in the attack with Griezmann and Morata having like incredible seasons and DePaul in the middle of the field, but I would say I have Inter over here. I think Inter's just rolling right now. I think they're upset from last year. They felt like they deserved to win the Champions League last year, and Lukaku costed them. But yeah, I got Inter here.
Yeah, I agree with you just for the same reason. They're just right now in Serie A, and Serie A is always relatively competitive. They are absolutely on fire right now.
44-9.
Yeah,
35 goal differential in the Serie A, which, like you said, probably the most competitive out of the.
Yeah, you got to pick Inter in this one. I mean, you got,
and that's probably the most competitive league in the top five. I would say it's a very competitive. Yeah. It is. I think it is the most competitive league in the top five. Not the best, but it's the most competitive. So to be doing what they're doing is absolutely amazing. Like, so they're only 3 points behind Juventus right now at 46, but then after that you have AC at 39. So they have about a 9-point lead from third place and only a 2-point. But yeah, playing super well right now. So next, this is also a good matchup. Obviously not two of the best teams, but I think this is going to be a really good matchup in PSV and Dortmund. PSV undefeated in Eredivisie right now, playing very well. Team is clicking. They're doing well. They did obviously enough in the Champions League to advance. Which I would say outside of the Arsenal, I would say that's a pretty tough group. I mean, you have Arsenal, Sevilla, Lens, and PSV. Like everybody had Arsenal advancing, but the other three, like that was a toss up of who's going to get in. And PSV, they got into their credit, like I said, playing out of this world. Dortmund, where does Dortmund currently sit right now? Dortmund is is in fifth place, which makes sense about where they were. Yeah, Dortmund not having the greatest of seasons for Dortmund standards. They did play pretty well in the Champions League, though. Obviously enough to advance in the group of death. Everybody had them finishing last.
Surprisingly well.
Everybody had them finishing. I had them finishing last. You're the only one I knew that didn't have them finishing last. They end up winning the group, topping the group. So maybe they're focusing on Champions League. They're usually a pretty solid Champions League team in the first place.
So just for that reason, I'm going to pick Dortmund. I do PSV. I mean, you look at their league table. I mean, they are on fire in the league. But I mean, Dortmund they outperformed in the group of death, which is mainly why I'm picking them. And it's always a tough place to travel to. Away
and then
at Dortmund is so difficult. Doesn't matter who you are. And PSV, you know, they're definitely beatable, as we saw in the group stage.
How I can't remember the scoreline, but what was the scoreline for PSV versus Arsenal? How did they perform? They got just absolutely thrashed.
Well, they drew 1-1, but that was a game that Arsenal didn't really care.
They already advanced. Yeah. They already locked in first.
They had already advanced. But before that, they had actually we had actually destroyed them 4-0.
Yeah. So they're tearing up the Eredivisie, but
I was pretty sure I remembered that game, but I had to check just to make sure that was the game that I remember watching.
Yeah. And I don't know much about Lens. I don't know how well they're performing now. Sevilla, from what I know is about Sevilla. Sevilla's not doing super hot right now. They ended up losing the entire group as a whole. So yeah, I got Dortmund here. Dortmund advances. Next game we have Arsenal
also
versus
good. Yeah, it's a good tie-in for the next one. All I'm gonna say is I do have to pick Arsenal because I was watching the
Arsenal
draw
versus
live.
FC Porto, by the way.
I was watching the draw live at work, and I did, I was worried that we were gonna get fucked over, and because Arsenal always gets those tough draws in the first round. Yeah, like Bayern in the fucking round of 16. It's like, oh, you win the group, congrats, you got Bayern.
Or PSG would have been tough.
Yeah, I know, right? So like I was definitely worried. This is the first round of 16 draw that I cared about for a long time, and I was very, very happy to have drawn Porto. I think, aside from, I mean, we weren't going to draw PSV, obviously, because we were in the same group. That was, so aside from Copenhagen, that's the best draw we got. Napoli, maybe Lazio. It's tough.
Well, Napoli would have been that would have been a tough draw.
Tougher. It's tougher. Yeah. Oh, okay. But I'm saying like the only easier one would have been like Copenhagen, probably. I think, and that's the one you can argue about. So you kind of have to pick Arsenal here, but they've been struggling, so they're beatable, especially in the round of 16 of the Champions League.
Yeah, I have Arsenal here. There's just too much talent on the team. I know they're not performing up to standard for the Prem, but when it comes to Champions League, you got to take down Porto. And I feel like if you're Arsenal, I don't know how you feel as an Arsenal fan, but would you rather just go all in on the Champions League and see how far you can go, and maybe if that sacrifices you getting fourth or third place in Prem, just staying in the Champions?
I don't think you can afford to make that decision. I think top four is so important that you can't risk it, because the league is going to be over and you're going to have a final to do. You're going to be in the Champions League final. The league's over. Now you got to win the Champions League final. That's your only hope. Puts more pressure on the team.
Yeah.
Because the Champions League
is a close race in the Prem.
The last game of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it more in detail, but like, the Prem is super close right now. 45, 42, 40, 40, 39.
We'll definitely talk about that.
All right, next,
one match
another
to go.
Good matchup. Napoli versus Barcelona. So this is an interesting one. These are two teams that I think are struggling right now. I think they're pretty equal level. Napoli came off winning Serie A last year for the first time in, I forgot how long, 20 plus years, something like that. I don't remember exactly. Barcelona also winning the league last year, but not super convincing fashion because getting knocked out of the Champions League and everything, getting knocked out of Copa del Rey, everything. So these are two teams that are in a moment where they're just kind of like in this limbo of like trying to hit that next level to where Manchester City is, to where Real Madrid is, Bayern, trying to get up to there. Or maybe you can even throw Inter in there with the way that they're playing. And
Yeah.
Napoli struggling right now. Osimhen, all the Osimhen drama and everything, and him not playing as much. Barcelona, not sure how they feel about Lewandowski going forward. Not really have a consistent right winger. Defense not playing super well. You don't really know who's going to play. The line changes every day. Not really a big fan of Xavi's tactics and substitutions. So this is going to be a good game in the sense of like terms of level. I think both of these teams would lose against any other opponent, any other major opponent. I'll say that. Not any other, but
Yeah.
any other major
I would agree
opponent.
with that. I think Napoli are struggling a little bit more, at least
And I
Barca. I
would
mean, they're
lean
they're
that way.
struggling is yeah, so Barca's struggling. They're still third and they're only 7 points off top. Are they struggling? Obviously, yes. I think everybody would say that. Um, but like I
They're
said,
getting
their
by.
struggling isn't the same. Yeah, getting by is not the same as Napoli.
Napoli's it's legitimately
Napoli,
struggling right
they
now.
have
8-7. Yeah,
they're having a rough go at it. So I mean, yeah, I agree. It's going to be an interesting matchup, and it really could go either way. But you you'd have to lean Barcelona.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I think they're both struggling, but yeah, Napoli's definitely worse. But I can see Napoli, even though they're not performing well in Serie A, I can see them giving a real run for their money. But I do think Barcelona is just going to have enough to get over the hump to play Napoli. But I'll say this: like, I wouldn't be terribly shocked if Napoli pulls it. Like, I'm just not super high on Barcelona right now, especially as a Barcelona fan and watching them. Like, they just, I don't feel confident watching them. Like, I don't, especially in these tournaments. They've been losing tournament after tournament, not really making it far at all. So I don't know, man. We'll see. But I think Barcelona
Interesting.
advance. I think Napoli, like you said, is just struggling a little bit more. I think they just don't really have any really other help outside of what you have with Osimhen. So yeah, those are our Champions League predictions, and that is also a wrap on. Oh, actually, I forgot. We got trivia. Forgot about trivia. All right, almost closed it without trivia. All right, should I go first? You go first. I have
Uh,
5 questions.
oh my God, I'll go first because I just got one.
Got 5 questions.
It is a tough one though. So you see in the
Okay,
topic sheet, you do have to have that open because it is you deserve to have the cheat sheet. If you don't, you're not going to get it. You're just not.
a League One matches. All right, so third division of England. Let's go. I don't know shit, but let's go.
Oh, I'm going somewhere with this one. So we just had some FA Cup games
Okay,
this past week. Enjoyed watching the FA Cup. Such a great competition, storied competition. Um, in 2013, so but it's still still kind of modern. You recognize some of the names in this situation. A team got relegated from the Premier League, but that same year they also won the FA Cup. So the next season, you had a championship team playing in the Europa League. That team is now struggling in League One. Do you know
struggling.
which team that is? And there'll be a little bonus after that.
Oh man, you
It
you know
can't
I'm
be
bad at
that difficult
I'm
because
bad at
you just
prem.
look at the teams and you think, okay, out of all these teams, who was in the Prem?
Let me think here. Who's in the prem? I'm so bad at prem history. Okay, um, I don't know why it's reaching out to me, but reading.
They were in the Prem, but it was not them.
It was not reading. Okay, they were in the Prem that season though.
I don't know if it was that season, but they were in
yeah.
the Prem around that time period.
Okay. Who was in
A little higher in the table?
Little higher. So you're talking about mid-table. Yeah.
Struggling.
Shrewsbury? I have no idea if they're in the Prem, but because all that relegation zone is like a blur.
They are one of the teams in administration.
In administration?
Meaning they're broke, and then the Premier League or the Football League punished them by taking away some points. Think about it.
Burton?
Who got points?
I don't know.
Who got points taken away? You can't even. It's on the fucking. It's
on League One.
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
Oh, Wigan.
Yeah, Wigan Athletic beat Manchester City.
How did that not register in my head where I just saw the 5 goal differential?
Yeah, that's why I was hoping it would stand out to you.
It didn't.
When I said
I didn't even notice
when I said punish.
Well,
because I was like, they have 27 points and they got 10 wins. Bonus though, who was the manager of that Wigan team?
Oh, bro, you got me. I don't fucking know. Just
You'll know
give
who
me
it
the
is,
answer.
though. You'll know who it is. It was Roberto Martinez.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Roberto
I would have no idea. So usually
Wigan.
they give it to me.
Yeah, Roberto Martinez's Wigan beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final, got relegated, and ended up being in the Europa League. They got bounced from the Europa League, but they did win a game 1-0. I don't even think he fucking coaches.
Or does he not coach? Is he still coaching?
He was.
Roberto Martinez. I feel like I just saw his name recently.
Of the Portugal national team. That's new. Since 2023.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say. I thought I've heard his name recently.
That's new. So, still managing. So I knew you. I knew you would know him.
I knew I heard his name recently. I couldn't.
I knew you would know who that is.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give you easier trivia because you gave me. I told you, man. I suck at Prem knowledge.
That
Especially when you talk about this relegation team. That is an interesting.
Isn't that cool? That is cool though. Playing in the Europa League as a second tier team, like
that is funny. It's one of the few times that the FA Cup actually works in that sense.
It's the only time. It's the only time in history that that happened. On at least 4 or 5 different occasions, somewhere around there, a team has made it to the final and gotten relegated, but not won.
Because doesn't it? The only way you qualify for the Europa League through the FA Cup is if the team
changed it now. I think it's Conference League now.
Oh, well, either way, the only way you get in is if you're not within that qualifications of the top 6, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, if you're in 10th place in the Premier League and you win the FA Cup, you get it.
And
you get the spot.
pull it from the 6th place team or whatever it is. Yeah, 6th place.
Yes.
And give it to the FA Cup winner.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. All right. This is a La Liga question. Since you gave me prep questions. All right. Who was the last team to win La Liga that wasn't Real Madrid, Barcelona, or Atletico Madrid? And a bonus point if you get the year.
So that wasn't Barca,
one of the big
Atletico, and Real. Who was it? Oh boy. They are.
It was in this century.
Team.
It was in this century.
Okay, so they are currently in La Liga.
They're currently in La Liga, and it was within the 2000s.
I
think early
guesses.
2000s. Think of what happened to Arsenal. Arsenal has a rough history with this team in the early 2000s.
Early 2000s, you're starting. I'm not exactly an analyst at that point. My first guess is gonna be Valencia.
Correct, Valencia. Bonus point for the year.
Fucking shit. You said early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
2004.
Money. That's it. Wow. I can't believe I didn't think you'd get that. Your hands are gone.
Oh, I know. It's great. I love the effect. It's great. I don't have hands, by the way. I was in an accident.
That stretch, Valencia was one of the best teams in the world. One of the best teams in Europe. They're very good. They made it. They beat Arsenal. I was trying to say, think of like early 2000s Arsenal. Why they lost? Yeah, like
my second guess would have been Sevilla.
No, yeah, that would have been my second I don't remember when Sevilla was, but yeah, Valencia, I believe, won 3 times in the early 2000s. They were a big 4 back then. And then they got a new owner. Shit fell apart. Now it's
that was such a big deal that they were like so bad, doing so bad.
Yeah, because they were at one in the early for most of their history, they've been really, really good. All right, now some Champions League. I got 4 Champions League questions for you. All right, what 2 teams played in the Champions League final called the Miracle of Istanbul? It was one of the greatest comebacks in Champions League final history. One team's in the Prem, the other was in Serie A.
Oh,
the Serie A team lost. The Prem team won.
Fuck. Was it Chelsea?
No.
No, it wasn't Chelsea.
How about the Serie A team?
I don't know. Fuck. AC Milan.
AC Milan lost 3-2 against.
Oh, okay. So if it wasn't Chelsea and it was AC Milan, the only other team in the Prem that would have won the Champions League around that time was Liverpool.
Liverpool beat AC Milan 3-2 against. Liverpool won 3-2 against AC Milan in 2005.
But they had my boy Dudek then. Yeah, they had my boy Dudek, Polish legend.
It was later dubbed the Miracle of Istanbul. All right, next question. Which player holds the record for the most goals scored in a single Champions League season, and what season was it?
Ronaldo.
Okay. What season?
It could have been any of them. Fucking A, man. That's the tough one.
It's obviously 2-year, like 2009, like 2010. Like, give me this.
15, 16.
No, it was 13, 14.
13,
how many goals
14.
was it?
12. Oh, you mean the including the group stage? Like 20 something, like 22.
No, 17. He scored 17 goals 17. In the Champions League.
Okay, that's pretty good.
All right, who scored the fastest Champions League hat trick in the knockout stages? This is relatively recent.
Yeah, I don't know. Fuck.
Liverpool. Think Liverpool. Who's on Liverpool at that time? Nope. Oh yeah, Salah. My bad. I thought you said Sane. Yes, it was Mo Salah. Can you guess what time it was? How long it took?
Took 8 minutes.
Nope. 6 minutes and 12 seconds.
Okay.
Fastest hat trick in Champions League history in the knockout stages specifically. All right. Final question. Who has scored the most hat tricks in one Champions League season?
Fuck, I don't know. I'm just gonna guess. Lewandowski?
No. It was recent. It was within the past 10 years. Think who's been tearing it up?
Holland?
Nope. Who had the most goals in a Champions League season?
Ronaldo?
It was Ronaldo.
Fucking
How many did he have? How many hat tricks did he have?
3?
Yep, he had 3. And then tied for second place. It's like a 5-way tie. Benzema had 2 hat tricks. Lewandowski had 2 hat tricks. Messi had 2 hat tricks.
Close.
Luis Adriano had 2 hat tricks. And Mario Gomez had 2 hat tricks. And that's it. That's our trivia for the week. All right. Nice. You did pretty good, man. You did pretty good. I thought the later ones would be a little bit more of layups for you, but you got the tough
and I
ones.
ended up fucking getting the tough one. Pulling it out of my ass. I did go with 04 because if you're gonna talk about Arsenal getting fucked, I'm gonna think like when Arsenal were peaking. And 03, 04, I mean that's
yeah,
peak Arsenal.
I can't remember the game, but I remember specifically there's a game where they beat Arsenal. All right. Anyways, that's it for episode 24 of Real Fans FC. I want to thank everybody who had listened all the way to the end. I greatly appreciate that you guys sticked along this far. And yeah, Adam, any final thoughts?
Well, it's 2024, and hopefully we're gonna have some more transfers to talk about, some more exciting matchups, games, things like that. We will be around.
All right. Peace out, everybody. You know where to find us on all the platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. You know where to go. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.